Imagine achieving your biggest dream, watching a Formula One race at one of the most legendary and historic circuits in the category. You see the best drivers in the world arriving, you feel the roar of the engines, and your excitement is at its peak. But not only that, it's raining, which means one thing: the show is guaranteed. Then the race starts and this happens.
Coulthard on the wall, David Coulthard on the wall, he's stopping, he stopped. This is quite appalling. This is the worst start to a Grand Prix I have ever seen in the whole of my life.
That was just the beginning of the most dramatic race in Formula One history, the 1998 Belgian Grand Prix, the most chaotic start ever seen. A massive crash involving 13 cars, which only opened the door to everything that was yet to come. Two drivers fighting for the world title, a fight in the pit lane, the first victory for one of the most humble teams, the grid, and many more moments that made this race even more incredible. So stay until the end to find out everything that happened that day at Spa-Francorchamps. It all started in the practice, where you could already sense what was coming. In the second session, Villeneuve starred in one of the most dangerous moments of the weekend, losing control of his car at 290 kilometers per hour at Eau Rouge. It was a chilling accident, and although he came out unscathed, it was a clear warning of what could happen later on. Then, in the third session, Mika Salo also crashed at Eau Rouge and had to be taken to the hospital. After the checkups, he was cleared to qualify, but his problems had only just begun. And then came the qualifying round. Coulthard and Hakkinen took turns holding first place with each attempt, until finally Hakkinen secured his 9th pole position of the season by just a 1/10 of a second over his teammate. McLaren secured the front row. However, the surprise came from Damon Hill, who put his Jordan in 3rd place, his best qualifying of the year. Schumacher was 4th, followed by his teammate Eddie Irvine, while Villeneuve completed the top 6 despite the accident the day before. Mika Salo, on the other hand, crashed again during qualifying. Another accident, another crash, and the worst was yet to come. Everything was set for one of the most chaotic race starts in Formula One history. Race day turned into total chaos from the very first minute. Although the forecast pointed to a dry Sunday, the rain showed up early. It wasn't just drizzle, it was a downpour. In the middle of the heavy rain, Michael Schumacher set the fastest time in the warm-up session, followed by Irvine, Hakkinen, Fisichella, Ralf Schumacher, and Hill. And despite how complicated the weather was, it was decided that the race would go on as scheduled, and without a safety car. The weather was unpredictable, and with the track soaked, tire decisions became crucial. Villeneuve, Alesi, and Schumacher chose intermediate tires, while others like Hakkinen, Coulthard, Hill, and Irvine went for extreme wet tires. They wanted to play it safe, but that race ended up being anything but safe. When the lights went out, Hakkinen got off to a good start. Coulthard, on the other hand, spun his wheels and lost positions. Hill also lost traction and dropped from 3rd place to 7th. The cars at the front got off to a relatively good start, but further back, real chaos broke out. Visibility was nearly zero due to the spray from the cars. And in the middle of that curtain of water, Coulthard lost control. He hit a metal strip, aquaplaned, and went straight into the wall, right before Rush. He bounced, spun, and crossed the track in the opposite direction. The result was a massive crash and a chilling scene.
Great start by Eddie Irvine. Villeneuve is in the wall. Who is that? Coulthard into the wall. David Coulthard in the wall. They will stop the race. Oh, this is terrible. Oh no, it's catastrophic. It's the worst start to a Grand Prix I've ever seen in my entire life.
One of the worst accidents ever seen in the history of Formula One. The replay shows a detached tire hit Coulthard, but not hard. But a second one flew off violently and passed dangerously close to the driver and the crowd. Luckily, it didn't hit the Scotsman or the stands. The accident lasted only 15 seconds, but in that time, 13 cars were completely destroyed. The crash reportedly caused almost $13 million in losses. Among those involved were Eddie Irvine, Alexander Wurz, Jos Verstappen, Rubens Barrichello, Johnny Herbert, Olivier Panis, Jarno Trulli, Mika Salo, Pedro Diniz, Torinosuke Takagi, Ricardo Rosset, Shinji Nakano, and of course, David Coulthard. The race was red flagged and stopped before finishing the first lap. There were cars everywhere, the track was still soaked, and visibility was practically zero. Irvine and Barrichello suffered minor injuries. Irvine was able to restart, but Barrichello wasn't. Additionally, 3 teams lost both cars in the crash. And since they only had one spare car, Salo, Rosette, and Paris had to withdraw so their teammates could continue. In total, 4 drivers were unable to return to the track, and hard as it may be to believe, none of them were seriously injured. Meanwhile, the officials were working to clean up the mess and prepare for a new start. It took almost an hour to clear the debris, remove the wrecked cars, and prepare the spare ones for the restart. When the drivers finally lined up on the grid again, only 18 cars were ready to restart. The only one involved in the initial crash who managed to come out unscathed was Ralf Schumacher, who positioned his car in just the right spot to avoid disaster. The second start was completely different because, incredibly, everything I've told you so far happened only in the first start. And even so, that was just the beginning, because from that moment on, each lap added something more. And what started as a chaotic beginning ended up becoming the most disastrous race in the history of Formula One. But what made this day so unforgettable wasn't just the chaos on the track, but what was at stake off it? Because Spa wasn't just another race, it was the most tense moment of the season. Michael Schumacher and Mika Hakkinen were fighting for the championship, separated by just 7 points, Ferrari versus McLaren. What nobody imagined was that this battle would not be decided by talent or strategy, but by one of the most controversial moments this sport has ever seen. But not only that, there was also a fight in the pits. The Schumacher brothers, on the verge of war. The first victory for one of the most humble teams on the grid, and many more moments that made this race even more incredible. So watch this video to discover everything that happened during the 1998 Belgian Grand Prix, and why it is considered the most dramatic and chaotic race in the history of Formula One.